Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dishes and Dimes live show. We're doing a pregame show. We've got a very special guest here today.
That's me. What's up, everybody? Alphonse Sidney, a.k.a. Alf954 from Miami Heat Beat and the host of Hangover Time on the Miami Heat Beat Twitch channel. So check us out. Which you guys will be a part of tonight, by the way.
Which we will. I hope the Raptors win. I'm just going to be sad in there if they go on like 2-game losing streak. I don't know how to act. The Raptors have been winning too much right now. But like a 2-game losing streak, I'm just going to be depressed. So.
I can't handle it. So
we have fun no matter what. The Heat lose all the time, and we still have a good time. So believe me, we're gonna have a good time no matter what. Like the whole basis of our show is like if your team loses, come watch us and have a good time, and if your team wins, still come watch us and have a good time. So
I will say,
no pity parties.
Really should. It's so much fun. Like even if as a non-Heat fan, I thoroughly enjoy watching you guys.
Yeah,
you guys are a lot of fun.
I try to catch it whenever I can. I love you guys. You guys are hilarious, and the fans.
Thank you. And the shows that I can remember doing, I'm pretty sure they're a good time. But usually by the end there, I'm kind of just wavering out. But we have fun, especially the weekend shows where we take shots for subscriptions. Those are always a wild time. Things are said.
The G and the amount of shots that you made that poor man take.
Oh, he's an idiot. He's doing shots at Jin. And like we were telling him, you don't have to take shots every subscription. Like we can work as a unit. He just kept taking shots.
Okay, time out. I have to defend our favorite Raptor fan. That is not at all what you guys were saying on the show.
Oh, well, we said it in the private chat. But he just didn't read it. The rest of us were taking our time. He was just going ham. And then he didn't wake up till like 4 o'clock the next day.
No, you wake up until 4 o'clock the next day.
Listen, it's the cost to do a business, man. Entertainment hurts sometimes.
That's fair. So speaking of entertainment, or hurting, lack of entertainment there. It's a brilliant segue, guys. I'm really great at this. It's not like I only slept 3 hours last night. I'm good. It was good. Smooth segue, right? It's beautiful. The Heat and Raptors have been two teams that are struggling. And it's been hurting. It's supposed to be a form of entertainment there, but we all just been hurting. Is that the way that I just saved my segue? I'm gonna pretend that is.
Yeah, it was perfect. I got it. I followed right along with it. Don't worry.
Smooth sailing. There was not a bumpy road there at all. So yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that because the Heat are coming off of a finals run. I think a lot of Heat fans probably came into the season just expecting people to build on it, especially considering the Heat are a young team. I mean, you have Jimmy. It's a little bit older, but you still have guys like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, Bam Adebayo, and they have not come out the way people expected. There's no all-star on the team, something that Raptor fans are dealing with right now because the team also did not come out as expected. So I want to ask you, what happened to the Heat this season?
Okay, so that's a loaded question. How much time we got? First of all, the Heat
depends on how the Raptors play. I can go all game.
Yeah, we can just skip the game and we can keep talking about this. The Heat had one of the shortest off season in NBA history, right? So did the Lakers. So what's the excuse? There's not much of an excuse. The Lakers got better in the offseason and the Heat didn't. The Lakers added to their team. The Heat subtracted. Like we lost guys like Derek Jones Jr., Jay Crowder, and we replaced them with guys like Mo Harkless and Avery Bradley, who's made out of sticks and paper. Mo Harkless also seemingly forgot how to play basketball since the shutdown. So they really did not replace those skill sets at all. Jay Crowder was really good for them. I mean, played out of his mind as far as from the three, could defend every position. Like he made their defense so dynamic. So you replace that with now Kelly Olynyk starting, who does not make anything dynamic defensively. Like you just hope that he doesn't fall over himself. And we love Kelly, but Kelly he'll go 1 for 11 from 3 in a game. So that inconsistency of Kelly that was supposed to be more something that you would count on as far as the bench unit is now in your starting lineup. Mo Harkless has given you absolutely nothing. Avery Bradley hasn't been able to stay on the court. Goran Dragic was supposed to be, is your secondary scorer after Jimmy. And if anybody thought Goran Dragic was going to survive a whole season after that offseason, was out of their mind. He's old. Like, he's European old. He's been playing professional basketball since he was 12. Like, it's a different kind of old, right? So the Heat didn't have the greatest plan. Like, part of their plan was Tyler Hero was going to take this historic leap. Right. Tyler Hero had no offseason. He didn't have a summer league. Like, he has gotten better from last year, but it's not significantly better where it's making a huge difference. And then Bam Adebayo was supposed to take this leap, and he did take a leap, but still, it's just not making up for all the deficiencies from last year. They don't have 3 months off like they did to get healthy for a bubble. Like, this team is just they are created in a way that if you take one piece out, the whole thing crumbles. And we've seen repeatedly over and over again, Jimmy's missed a bunch of games, Bam's missed a bunch of games, Goran's missed a bunch of games, and they're not built to sustain when they're missing guys like that.
I think it's a very good point. I've often argued that the Raptors are actually built different than that. Like, the Raptors are a cohesive unit. They work when all pieces are working together. But I think one of the benefits that the Raptors have seen both this year and last year is their ability to withstand injuries has been, I mean, they're 16-0 without Kyle Lowry, their best player, right? Like, there's no other stat that kind of, or 16-1, sorry, they lost to the Sixers yesterday. Yeah. There we go, 16-1 in the last 17 without Kyle Lowry. And last year, Gasol missed 30 games, Serge missed 25 to 30 games, Siakam missed 15 to 20-ish games. Fred VanVleet did the same thing. So all of these guys missed extended time last year, and the Raptors maintained pace. And I think the difference is, and I've been saying this, I think the Raptors have a lot of higher usage guys that need kind of a bigger role to really show out. We've seen OG Anunoby's career high coming out when Pascal Siakam sits. We see Fred VanVleet have his giant games when Kyle Lowry's gone. So when some of these older Siakam's not old, but just higher usage guys that kind of take up so much of what the Raptors do offensively are out, it makes way for the younger guys that are up next. And I guess that's not the case over in Miami.
No, we have too many niche guys, right? Like, we have all these guys that are so dependent on Goran and Jimmy Butler and Bam creating for them, right? And then, so without Goran, with lots of games without Jimmy, Bam is not, Bam is like good in tandem with one of those guys. He's your secondary playmaker, dribble handoff. He's a really good passer. But like, once, Jimmy and Goran were out and Bam was like, had the whole weight of the offense on his shoulders, he was like committing 7-8 turnovers a game because he's a 6'9" big man. Like, that's what he is. He's not LeBron, right? But he can do it in spurts and stints. But the rest of this team, Duncan Robinson is a specialty player. Kelly Olynyk, specialty player. Kendrick Nunn, I'm not sure what he is. And then you go to the bench and you got a bunch of guys like Gabe Vincent and KZ Okpala and Mo Harkless, and you're just like, what is? And there's this guy named Max Strus who I swore was from Germany. He's from Indiana or something. Like, I'm sitting here as a Heat fan. I have no idea who these MFers are from night to night. I almost cursed. I don't know if I'm allowed to. But yeah, it's like we don't have enough two-way guys. We don't have guys that should be high usage at all. Like, we are playing guys at high usage that have no business. Like, they should be they're on two-way contracts and should be in the G League, but because of COVID, because we wasted a roster spot on Myers Leonard, we wasted a roster spot on Udonis Haslem. There's a guy named Chris Silva that I saw one time play last year, and for some reason he's still on the Heat. Like, we have so many of these just wasted spots. Like, we have to put. Like, I'm watching Gabe Vincent like try to stick Steph Curry, and I want to stab my eyes with an ice pick. But listen, I signed up to do a post-game show after every game this season because I'm a genius. This is the season I picked to do every single game. I'm so smart.
Why alcohol was made. It was specifically for this season. It was invented specifically. They thought, 2021, Alpha's going to do this, and we got to.
And my liver hates me, but listen. The money's good.
I have like a million questions in my head about these specialty players because it's kind of why I've never really bought stock in the Heat. Is I guess it's unfair. It's unfair for me to talk about what Tyler Hero and what Duncan Robinson is. I would say Duncan Robinson more so than Tyler Hero. No, it's unfair for me to say this about Tyler Hero, considering he hasn't had the off season that most young guys would have. Whereas I still kind of see him as a specialty player, and I think he can be a lot more than that. I think the Miami Heat expect him to be a lot more than that. But I kind of watch him, and I'm like, has he taken that next? Like, do you think that next step is there for him? Do you think that he can? Do you think he's more than
a specialty
player who had a really nice bubble?
Tyler Hero.
Tyler Hero, yeah. I think it's like fair to say Duncan Robinson is that because
Duncan Robinson is a specialty player. That's what he is.
Yeah, okay. And for Tyler, you expect more, but just as someone who's watching it from afar, kind of what he seems like to me. Am I wrong to think that? And I think it's unfair considering he didn't have an off season, he didn't have a preseason, he didn't have a training camp, and that's where we see guys take the next step. It's not like Siakam. Well, Siakam's doing it midseason, but a lot of Siakam's growth from year to year. Not comparing Tyler Hero to Pascal Siakam, Raptor fans watching this, but that happens in the offseason. We saw it time and time again with DeMar DeRozan, where he would go in the offseason, come back with another element to his game, playmaking, his handle, whatever it was. That happens in the offseason, so it's probably not fair of me to say this about Tyler Hero, but do you should people be buying stock in him being more than just like a specialty guy?
I think so, because he's not a specialty guy. He's actually a 3-level scorer. Like, he is a scorer. He's a bucket getter. Like, he's actually been better from within the 3-point line. Even when you talk about effective field goal percentage, he's been better at the rim and from mid range than he has from 3 this year. So he's not a specialty 3-pointer. He can break down a defense, get in the lane. Now, where Tyler doesn't have, he's not Goran, he's not Jimmy. When he gets in the lane, he can't make plays for other people. He's looking to score, which is fine because there's times where he just need a bucket getter. The problem with Tyler this year is they wanted him to go out there and be their point guard at the beginning of the season. He was starting in the point guard position, right? And he was just
point guard.
He's a 2 guard. Right. And he's a Lou Williams type. Put him on the floor. He's going to score for you. He's going to be a turnstile on defense, and he tries really hard, but he's not strong enough.
Long term?
Huh?
Is he the 2 long term?
If you put him with the right point guard, like him and Goran together, their numbers are really good. Like, if you put him with a real point guard, and the thing is, he's not the kind of guy where he's so multifaceted, so talented that you could just plug him into any position and he's going to thrive. Like, he needs to be put in a place to succeed. So this season should have been off-season training camp, summer league, and then you come in as, the 7th guy or 6th guy off the bench, and we just need you to come in and get buckets. And you're going to close some games because the kid has balls of steel. Like, he'll shoot. He doesn't care. Like, he's not afraid.
He's a bet on himself type of guy. I respect that. A lot of Freddie in him.
But he's
for sure.
Speaking of a shooting guard, we're trying to make into a point guard who's not it.
You guys are speaking something. But one thing about Freddie, he's strong. So he gets in that lane. He can still do things in the lane. Tyler, he gets in that lane.
I'll say, like, we had G on the podcast earlier, and I remember him bringing out this stat. I didn't even know it at the time. Fred, this would have been at the start of the year. He's improved somewhat. I think it was like 46% or something right underneath the basket. Like, he was just abysmal at finishing.
He can't finish. That's his problem.
But you know what? He's a strong dude who's going to take it in every single time.
But he's also a little guy. He's a little bitty guy.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that.
Like, remind him, because
better himself. You know what? I respect it. He was money in transition last year. The Raptors as a whole took a step back massively in transition this year. It wasn't just Fred's finishing, but and it's gotten better. It's gotten better.
Yesterday's game, because he wanted to prove that he should have been an all-star, and instead he did the complete opposite.
He didn't have a great offensive game.
Complete opposite, and he refused to fucking pass the. Sorry, swearing, but he refused to pass the ball to like literally anyone. And then he forgot that, like, everybody on Philly is like
Giants.
So much taller than him. He's like driving in the paint, and he's trying to like put up a layup. And I'm just like, logically, like, when you think about the sequence that you're about to do, did you think that ball was gonna go into the net? Like, I just really want, Like, does he stop
every single time?
He forgets his height. Like, he literally forgets his height, and it's just like
that's kind of like that's bet on Fred. Like, as much as I'm with you.
I get it. But
No, you hear me on Clubhouse. I'm pissed at
Philly,
every time.
right? Like, Tobias Harris is standing right there, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like logically that makes sense. Did that actually make sense?
I'll say, you know what, Fred? Great defensive game yesterday. Terrible offensive game. Because he was forcing it. Definitely, I agree with you. You were saying that on Clubhouse. He's trying to force it because he's mad that he wasn't an all-star. Bam. Are we gonna see Bam try to force?
Well, no.
Try to force it. I guess you kind of want that.
Well, we want him to. See, we have the opposite problem with Bam. Bam thinks he's Fred VanVleet size. he forgets that he's bigger, stronger, and fat. Like, he forgets he's
whatever you want in the paint, Bam. Like, literally.
Let's switch mentalities.
Yeah. Honestly, like that's interesting.
He's faster than the big, flat-footed big man.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But he doesn't go to the hole. He doesn't try to take him off the dribble. And then when he's against smaller guys, like, he passes out of post-ups to, like, Jimmy Butler threes. Like, I understand if Duncan Robinson is by himself, but I wouldn't pass to Jimmy Butler for a three.
Hey, you know what Jimmy did in the bubble in the playoffs, bro.
Right.
Jimmy becomes a shooter.
He only ever does that in the playoffs.
When it matters most.
Yeah, but in January against the Rockets, he ain't hitting that three. Like, I'm taking Danwell House to the post. I'm not passing to Jimmy Butler. Like, I'm just not. And I love Jimmy, but don't get me wrong. I mean, he's a terrible 3-point shooter.
Right.
Speaking of slow-footed centers not being able to guard Bam, what do we think the Raptors are going to do? Last year, the first time we really saw OG at the 5, at least the first time I really was just like, oh, this could be a thing that could work, was when the Raptors went small against the Miami Heat. Is that something that everyone on here kind of expects to happen tonight?
Yes.
I'm terrified if they do.
I think it's going to be a thing. I mean, the Raptors have just been starting small. I'm asking the question like the Raptors haven't just been starting small.
Yeah, like, they're literally not going to start banging.
Like, just figured I'd throw it out here. What do you think is going to happen with that, Alf? And then I'll go to you, Sandy, as well.
Well, it terrifies me. I have not seen anybody handle Bam the way OG did in those matchups last year, and it shook me to my core. I get flashbacks every time he does something like pass out of a post up of Daniel House, or he has a guy like Gerald Green on the break, and he's like, and he does a pullback dribble. Like, what are you doing? You're 6'9" and an athletic freak. Like, just go in there. And I think he sees OG when that happens. Like, I think he's scared. I have no idea.
I love that. I love if the Raptors are just the team that terrifies. Like, you know how, like, Giannis was saying that, like, he sees Marc Gasol in his nightmares?
Like,
if Bam sees OG, like, if the Raptors defense just – because I promise you, I think Giannis is now seeing Fred from those strips that he got on him. Fred did it last night to the Sixers as well. Like, I feel like that's what the Raptors calling card is going to be, just being in people's nightmares. What about you, Sandy? What do you expect from this Bam OG matchup?
Yeah, I'm hoping that OG puts the fear of God into them. Like, I want him to think of OG every time he gets into the paint and tries to I do think that OG wants to make a point of getting an all defense nod this year, and I think he's being very intentional. And I think playing small is going to be great for him because he really gets to show what he can do against guys that are bigger than him. So that kid he's a special kind of defender for real.
He's special. I mean, he's the reason that the Raptors have this streak. Obviously, Norman Powell is the reason, like, just coming into the starting lineup and what he's done. Pascal Siakam being a good player is a big reason. Fred VanVleet is a giant reason. I think he's been the best player in this stretch. But OG Anunoby's ability to play the 5 has really been the difference maker, just not having to play Aaron Baines starter minutes, not having to start the first and the third. You're not having to dig out of a hole every single night unless Furkan Korkmaz hits a million threes and scores 60 points in the first quarter. Like, unless that happens, you're really not having to dig yourself out of a hole, which has really benefited the Raptors quite a bit. And that starts and ends with what OG Anunoby is able to do for you. And shout out to Bembry starting.
We had a lot of Heat fans begging. We had Heat fans begging for Aaron Baines, like begging.
Like
Yeah.
I'll say, like
Exactly.
this is prior to the year starting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. This is
Yeah,
the off
okay.
season.
I was gonna say, like,
Okay,
I think
you
Raptor
guys
fans
want to
kind of
take him?
felt it.
I'm good.
I think Raptor fans felt the same way.
Yeah, no, we were excited.
After Mark and Serge left, you were just like, unless you get Baines, you're just not going to be able to salvage this.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Tropical Blanket from 5 on the Floor is in the chat, and he said, "At me, Alf." Yes, Tropical Blanket Alex Toledo was begging for Aaron Baines, and now Raptors fans don't even want him to see the floor.
I
I
just
just
want
see the floor. Just come off the bench. I'm fine with that. He played Embiid really well.
He did.
He played Embiid really, really well. And sometimes you need his size, like just in random games. Like I remember, like literally, Robin Lopez was just going off against the Raptors because they had no size, and it was like you just need to bring in Baines. The Raptors are a small team. They start 2 guys that are under 6 feet tall. You can't now have OG as your center when literally they're tiny people, and like Boucher is literally the smallest man in the NBA.
Like we weigh the same, me and Boucher. Yeah.
Yo, Boucher sets a screen, and I swear the defender doesn't even recognize it like 70% of the time. Like, it's just like he's not even there.
Bro. But he does. He tries, and that's what I respect it. Like
I love when we talk about NBA players. We're like, they tried. They tried.
Good heart.
Boucher.
Good job.
We gotta like try and some bitches on our team too. They try.
Yo, Boucher's been good though. Boucher's been good.
He's been good.
Boucher's shooting like 45% from deep.
He's
on a million attempts a game. He was averaging a million blocks. You guys can fact check me. That's facts. He's averaging a million blocks.
I think he hit like 4. He hit a bunch of threes against us last game.
Oh yeah,
I think so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Well, I mean, everybody does.
Because the Raptors and Heat have split it now.
We're like the same team because every fucking game, bro.
Do you guys get a career high or season high against you every game?
Every single.
It's always a random, like it's Shemi Ojale hit 6 against the Raptors.
Ojale.
6.
Oh my god.
Wait. I literally, as he was hitting his 6-3, I opened up Basketball Reference to see how many threes he hit the entire year. It was 20. I was like, you've hit 20 threes the entire year and 6 tonight?
Yeah. Like
that's
we had
math.
Reggie Bullock went for his career high against us. I mean, it's every single game. Like we have, like I said, we need to do a drinking game, season high, career high. Like you have to take 2 shots for 1 shot for a season high, 2 for a career high.
That's crazy. Rubio hit 4 threes, right? And you're like, okay, 4 threes. The broadcast was like, this is only the 13th time in Rubio's career that he's hit 4 threes against a team. And I'm like, the man's been in the league for longer than a decade. What do you mean the 4th time? But like, or the 13th time, whatever it was. But for the Raptors, what it is, like what I'll say, because it's a lot of random guys. Eric Bledsoe was hitting like literally buzzer beater threes to basically end every single quarter against the Raptors. He went off. What it is with the Raptors is they send doubles to the best guy on the team. They really just try to trap the best guy, and it's the 3-point shooter. Shemi, take a wide open 3. Rubio, take a wide open 3. At the end of the day, these guys are NBA players. They know that this is how the Raptors play defense. This is what the Raptors have been doing. And it's trapping it. That's why the Raptors had such great games against the Lakers, right? It was, you were sending doubles every single time to LeBron James and to Anthony Davis, and you're telling KCP to take that shot. And KCP was missing that shot, right? Like, and that's what the Raptors have done. And on some nights, those Eric Bledsoes and Shemi Ojales are going to get hot.
Reggie Bullocks.
It seems like it, and the Reggie with the Raptors, it seems like it's every single game that random 3-point shooter who should not be hitting those shots gets those wide open ones and hits them. You think that you want to give it up to them? It's not like they're giving it up to they're giving it up to Duncan Robinson. You know what I mean? But
threes. When was the last time he did that? Like, can somebody answer? When was the last time Danny hit 3 threes in a game?
Bro, Danny scored 0 points against the Raptors twice last season. Yo, he scored 0 points against the Raptors all last year in both the games.
Jesus.
And he went off against the Raptors yesterday. But you know what? Danny Green, decent 3-point shooter. He is not.
You'll accept that, but. It's like we were playing the Clippers, and see the Heat have some of that same thing, right? Where they're going to take away your primary weapon, and that's why we have something in Heat Twitter called the random scrub Heat killer, because There's always a random scrub Heat killer.
Shout out to Will. He calls it the
Will. We also have a Raptors killer. So.
Okay, so you guys understand.
Yeah.
So we will send extra help at their best player, which leaves the scrub open, and the scrubs are going to hit some shots every now and again. Where I go crazy is when you're playing the Clippers without Kawhi, Paul George, Pat Beverly. I even think they were missing Nick Batum. Like they had nobody.
That was a bad one.
So who are you sending all this extra help at? We had like 3 guys tracking Lou Williams and like Markieff Morris, one of the Morris. I don't remember which one it is. It's one of them. It's the ugly one. He's knocking down. He hit like 8 threes, and like we were just leaving him open. And after a while, I was like, guys, like listen, like let Lou Williams get a layup. Like Markieff Morris is just killing you from outside. Right. So like that's why
in 2021 you could allow it.
Yeah, like come on,
like bro,
like leave Tyler on the island against Lou Will. He needs to be able to stop him. Like we don't need Mo Harkless and Andre Iguodala hedging and leaving guys in the corners that have been killing you all game. Like that's where I'm losing my mind with this team. And then I get mad at Spoelstra, but then I look on the floor and it's like it's Mo Harkless. Like
that's true.
What are you gonna do?
That's fair. That's fair.
And that was like one of the things about Nick Nurse last year that I thought was amazing. Like you guys, it didn't matter who was out, who was in. You guys were, I mean, it's the regular season last year, you guys just kept rolling. You were just a machine. Yeah. This year, we have not found that kind of rhythm at all. And I'm just hoping, like, we're on a 3-game win streak. It's a little bit of fool's gold. Like, it's the Lakers without AD. It's the Sacramento Kings. Like, it's a lot of that happening. So I'm just hoping, like, tonight would be a really, really big win for the Heat. I'm sorry, guys. But, like, it'd be really.
I have all my excuses locked and loaded. Second night of a back-to-back.
These are all the reasons why it's a big win for the Heat. Like, we need this. Like, if we lose to you guys tonight, like, what the hell are we? Like, we're.
That's my question. Like, what the hell are the Heat? Because I feel like the Raptors have kind of found their identity. I think the Raptors look like the Raptors of last season, right? Like, it's not. To start the year, I'm going to be honest, I didn't recognize them. Like, I tweeted out the first game where I was like, they do not lose these games. They do not lose these games to the Pelicans. That is just. It felt like a lot, like, and then they lost to the Spurs right next to it, and I was like, this is a different season. The Raptors don't, for one, they don't start 0-2. That's just not a thing. But number two, it just did not look like the Raptors team. I was out on it from the first game of the season, and finally, they're starting to look like the Raptors again.
Even in a loss.
That was going small.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was going small, because how the Raptors really, and even the Raptors' success before they went small was like, their offense was like top 6 in the league at that point, top 5, which is not what the Raptors have been. The Raptors have been a middle-of-the-pack offensive team and an elite defensive team. That's the Raptors calling card. That's always been the Raptors calling card. And how they score is they get out in transition. But all of a sudden, your Raptors half-court offense looked good. And it was weird to watch. Like, I get what people are saying. They're like, I get that it looks a little bit nicer at times, but the Raptors have 5-minute stretches every single game where they're not able to score. So I think that there's a lot of fool's gold in the way that
quarters like that. We call that the second half.
Oh, same. It's the third quarter for us. Third quarter. Third quarter.
We call it the third quarter, and we have for about 7-8 years now.
Same team.
We're literally the same team. This is crazy.
Same team. But the Raptors kind of found their groove again.
Yeah.
So the Heat last year were an offensive juggernaut. Like, I mean, they were shooting lights out from 3. They were beating teams offensively, which is new for the Heat. Like, even the big 3 teams were defense first teams. Yeah. I feel like the thinking has pivoted because we can't score. So they've been trying to drag other teams in the mud and win 98, 96. Like, we're watching late 90s basketball, ladies and gentlemen. Like, this is not, 2021, 130 to 125.
Right. Did the Raptors even crack 90 points last night? Yo, they dragged that game out. So they might have. That fourth quarter was fake.
We might see a 75-72 game. I mean, talking Knicks Heat circa 1996. If both of these teams are determined to drag the other team in the mud, holy shit.
This is gonna be disgusting.
It might be an ugly game, but it could also have the potential to also be like really exciting. Like, you never really know what a Raptors Heat game is gonna look like. If you remember last year, the Raptors had their worst shooting night. It was the worst shooting night I've ever seen in my entire life, and it just happened to be against the Heat, which made me really upset because I'm like, should be able to beat this team. I didn't believe in the Heat last season, to be 100% honest. I love Jimmy. I love Bam. I do not love the rest of that team.
I mean, neither do we half the time, to be honest with you. I mean,
Jimmy and Bam are everything.
Most of Twitter's tweets are trade everyone not named Jimmy and Bam, like after every loss. So
though, I did say at the start of the year, Sandy, you can vouch for me. I said going through the Eastern Conference, because Jason Tatum wasn't what Jason Tatum was at the start of last season, right? Like nobody you could have predicted that, but that was he grew so much just throughout the year. So I looked at it and I remember at the start of the year being like, there is no elite wing scorer, like a guy who can create for himself on the wing that the Raptors kind of needed, like what DeMar DeRozan was for them, what Kawhi Leonard was for them. When it's late, who are you giving the ball to? You can create it, right? And the Raptors, they went to Norman Powell in the playoffs. We saw that, right? Like game 6 to close it out overtime. It was Normiso was the play call. Didn't work for them. But like I looked up and down and I was like, Jimmy is high key the only one that exists. Like just going back to what the Sixers and Raptors series was, it was a back and forth, like game 7, back and forth a little bit between Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy. And I love Jimmy. Like Jimmy just goes off against the Raptors. He's the one like non-scrub who just eats the Raptors lunch. Like DeMar DeRozan was his son. Love you, DeMar, but like that Jimmy scored 40 points and a half against the Raptors.
Jesus Christ. Can he do that tonight?
Chill.
No, because DeMar's gone, buddy. No. So it was on DeMar DeRozan.
If Jimmy goes for
defenders now,
you don't have to hide DeMar anymore. So no.
If Jimmy goes for 40 in the first half for this team, they still only going to score like 48. So it's not. It's not really doing a lot.
Literally what the Bulls were. That's exactly what the Bulls were. Those Bulls teams, like they were bad, right? Like towards the end of Jimmy's time there. And the Raptors are good, right? The Raptors were winning like 50 some odd games every single year. Without fail, they would lose 3 or 4 to the Bulls every single year. Like it would just be awful. They would get swept by the Bulls in the regular season regardless. And it was because Jimmy just ate against DeMar DeRozan. So for that, I just have immense respect for Jimmy Butler and everything that he was able to do. So I did predict that in the playoffs, I kind of liked whatever the Heat could do just because they had that guy. So I'm going to take credit for that one.
They had that guy and they had health. Like I said, this team fully healthy is very well constructed. But it's like a Jenga set, right? You take away one piece, you take away a few pieces, the thing is falling apart.
That's kind of like, so Jay Crowder was the one kind of 3-and-D guy for me. It was the guy that could space the floor and defend, because you kind of are looking at it, you're like, okay, Tyler and Duncan could do. I posted a tweet where, you know, that Family Guy meme where it's Peter and he has that like card. I'm just trying to put my hand up. I don't know where the camera is. And it's like there's white skins and then there's dark skins.
Yeah.
And it says shooters and defenders. And that's literally what the Heat were to me. It was shooters and defenders. And Crowder was the one person who came in and fit both.
Well, right. You could have Duncan and Goran, or Duncan and Tyler, or Tyler and Kelly. You could have those guys because you surrounded them with Iggy with Jay, Bam, and Butler, right? You had like 3 elite defenders and 2 guys who could shoot the lights out. Yeah. Now it's like you have Jimmy, Bam, and Kelly, Nunn, and Duncan, or Tyler, Goran, and Kelly, and it's just like, or then you throw Iggy out there, and then he can't do anything offensively. I mean, every time there's a collective gasp every time Iggy shoots a 3. You can hear it all over South Florida, and it's like, no, yes. Like even when he makes them, I'm mad at him. Like, don't pass to that motherfucker. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean.
That's funny.
But yeah,
how much does Iggy have left in the tank?
Good question.
He should be. First of all, he should never play a back-to-back. This season where you only get one night off between games, he should skip a game. He should play no more than 14 minutes.
Back-to-back, just play every other game regardless.
Yeah, regardless if it's a back-to-back or not. Like he needs 2 days off, man. And then like he shouldn't play more than 12, 14 minutes. Like he's effective in spurts. But the problem is, like, there's so much, like, he's literally our backup power forward right now. Like, did you hear what I just said? Like, he's not like the 11th guy. He is night in, night out, our backup 4.
Oh, Lord.
I think I was just trying to think about who's the Raptors backup for. I think that was my first thought in my head. I guess
he's younger than Andre Iguodala.
Both.
Half your coaching staff is younger than Andre Iguodala.
That's fair. But Bobby Webster might just be younger than Andre Iguodala. The Raptors might just be younger than Andre Iguodala.
Andre was in the first stage of COVID vaccines.
What? That's wild.
Sorry, that was wrong. But Udonis Haslam definitely was.
Come on now. Come on now.
What? I'm not on the Heat pod. I can do this. I'm letting all my slander out now.
Can you, as a member of Heat Nation, speak to how outraged or how non-outraged you are at the fact that the Heat will not be represented in the All-Star game?
I don't know. It's like I hear I'm not upset because I don't want them going to that super spreader event anyway. I would have liked them to get my official stance is I would have liked Bam and Jimmy to get picked and then fake injuries. And then not go. Like I don't want them in Atlanta, during All-Star weekend. But I understand that the Heat did not do well with Jimmy out and Bam leading the team. They didn't win a lot. And I understand that Jimmy didn't play enough games, even though there's a lot of guys who didn't play a lot of games that are on that list. And then I think no other team has borne the brunt of being sub 500 or hovering around 500. Like no one's been criticized as widely as the Heat have for it. And I think that's kind of unfair because the Heat have had a shorter season than offseason than any other Eastern Conference team. And they were hit when those first games were being postponed by COVID, the Heat got hit hard. Like they had maybe 6 straight games with 8 available players. And they could have did what some teams did and fake injuries and postpone games, and they didn't. So they just went out there and they lost a bunch. So I think Bam is getting a backlash for a lot of that, and I don't think it's fair because to me he's an all-star. Because you look at Vucevic, I can never say his name. The Magic aren't very good. So like I don't know what this
he's on there. That's the one name that I saw and I was like, what the hell?
Like
honestly, to be honest,
every Eastern Conference snub is looking at Vucevic and be like,
Sabonis seems to be looking at Vooch and saying, what the hell? Like, why is Sabonis not on there?
Right.
Do the Pacers even have an all-star?
No.
But Vooch is out there? Oh, my God.
No, Vooch is out there. That's kind of I think like a legacy thing. Like, I guess his name, he's been an all-star in the past. Sabonis has been an all-star. I don't understand it. I'm going to be honest.
Sabonis gets no respect. Honestly, he's one of my favorite big men after Bam. Guys, I got to get my charger, so I'm going to be very unprofessional.
I wanted to ask Sandy. We'll end it because the game is about to start soon. How do you feel about the fact that no Raptor is going to be represented on All-Star Weekend?
I was upset for Freddie. I wanted him to at least get a reserve spot. I feel like he carried the team when nobody else was doing anything. Mm-hmm. And he plays defense, and I think that should be celebrated and appreciated. And for whatever reason, the NBA does not acknowledge that. Somebody his size should not be able to get the amount of deflections that he does. People,
and they're real steals, bro. He's literally going in there and just like grabbing that ball out of someone's hands.
I do understand in terms of numbers, maybe Fred doesn't match up, but
even I think by every metric, I'm with you on that. Here's the thing. I think with Fred, I think it's really hard for when a team is struggling for a first-time guy to get in, unless it's unless you're putting up Zach LaVine numbers, right? Unless you're blowing people out of the waters, I think it's going to be really difficult for a first-time guy to get in. I have a feeling that if Kyle had not been out and the Raptors found their way to this spot, that coaches might have been more willing to give him that sort of Joe Johnson vote. You remember how Joe Johnson made his 7th and all of us were like, what the hell? I think that would have probably happened for Kyle more so. I think Siakam was probably out of the running because people were just so upset with his play early on, despite the fact that he looked really good. I think recently, I think that Fred probably deserves it more than any Raptor. It's just really hard to get in there for your first time when your team struggles. But I'll say this. Boston is sub 500. They do not need 2 all-stars. What are we doing?
They do not need to.
500. The Raptors have a better record than the Boston Celtics with 0 All-Stars, and the Celtics have 2. Doesn't need to happen.
People love Jason Tatum.
Love.
They love him. I mean, he's only 19.
Jason Tatum's going to be retiring. People are going to be like, he's only 19.
No. The other day, they're like, he's only 22 years old. It's his 3rd year in the league, people. Can we stop? Like, what are we doing? Like, he's only 22. He's only 20. He can vote. He can drink. He can drink legally. I mean, he can go to war.
War? Yeah, we're all
he dribbled behind his back. Who gives a shit? I mean,
you can tell one's an American, one's a Canadian. He said go to war. I said die in a war. That's how I see war.
Well, listen, we're big on drone strikes, so
yeah.
And with that, we leave you, everybody. Check out me and Sandy on Miami Heat Beat later on tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
We're gonna jump on Clubhouse, so.
Girl, I might not be on Clubhouse. I'm gonna be honest.
It's a lot, but I'm gonna be on Clubhouse.
There we go. I don't watch games on there. You guys are like 10 minutes ahead of me. Know everything that's gonna happen like 50 years before I do. I can't do it anymore. But with that, everybody, good night. We love you, and we'll check you out next time.
See you after the game. Twitch.tv/MIA Heat Beat.
Let's go Raptors.
Heat, don't embarrass me. Heat, don't embarrass. All right, y'all.